Welcome to the video, guys. As you might know, the Remainers have been going wild over the last 24 hours in relation to the Russia report that has been released. As you already know, they was all relying on this report to blame Russia for the Brexit vote in an attempt to try and stop it, which we all knew was a complete and utter load of codswallop. As I've already said many times before, it is much like over in America with Donald Trump and the accusations of Russian collusion there. That obviously got proved to be much like this one, a complete and utter load of bollocks. Well, it seems a bunch of Brexiteers have come out and savaged Remainers, along with newspaper articles pointing out the simple fact that the people of this country are not stupid and do not get influenced by foreign powers like the media would love to claim. Let's be honest, we don't get influenced by the powers that be here, so I don't know where they actually get these claims from, but they are rather laughable. Now, to top it all off, we also had the ISC coming out and saying they are going to investigate whether Russia actually took part in the Brexit election, despite of course there being no evidence for it, which is why they never bothered to do it in the first place. Some might sit there and say, why would they go and do that? But to me, it's kind of obvious. They are, like I've said, desperate to stop Brexit any way they can. This Remainer-filled committee is their last hope, I think you would agree. Now first, we will take a look at this Express article, which headlines, Brexiteers, Savage Remainers, Russia Hoax, Years of Lies and Smears. But before we get into that, remember, the daily live streams have moved over to Twitch, so if you want to join me over there to chat in real time, the link will be down in the video description, along with the channel's other social media links. But back to the Russia hoax and the complete and utter nonsense coming from the Remainers and of course the media. Boris Johnson has slapped down claims the Brexit referendum was rigged by Russia after an explosive report on Moscow's meddling in British politics, which, based on the report, is actually Moscow's meddling in the SNP and their indie ref, but we've covered that already. Downing Street said the PM is absolutely confident the result of the decisive 2016 poll was fair and there is no evidence of interference, as the ISC found. Brexiteers said the findings of a long-awaited report on how much power the Kremlin wields showed claims Russia influenced the vote to leave was a hoax. Which is obviously, like I've said many times, something we have been screaming and shouting for years and laughing at the Remainers who were so desperate to get this report released that wouldn't have really got them anywhere, let's be honest. The bombshell probe warned that Britain has underestimated the threat posed by Moscow for too long and is clearly a target for Russian disinformation, which I do have to say is rather laughable considering every single country around the world is a target for disinformation from every single other country around the world, let's be honest, regardless of whether they are allies or not. The Intelligence and Security Committee ISC found wealthy Russians linked to Vladimir Putin had weaved their way into all corners of the British establishment, which once again I'd have to say is likely true for every single nation around the world doing the same to every single nation around the world, including the UK. Oligarchs flocked to the UK after successive governments welcomed them and their money with open arms, much like they did to China and every single other nation around the world that might have a bit of money about them. But as we all know, Russia is the boogeyman and has been for years. It's actually quite laughable. They're no different to any other state, in my opinion. They used London as a laundromat for their illegal finance and fueled a whole industry of lawyers and estate agents who enabled their activities, some knowingly, and I expect British people have done the same there. As a matter of fact, in history, there is evidence to suggest they have. The ISC said there were credible open source studies that suggested Russia tried to influence the Scottish independence referendum in 2014, as I covered yesterday. Committee member Jebin Jones admitted there was no evidence that Moscow attempted to influence the EU referendum, but insisted it was only because the government did not try to find out if it had. No, they probably looked into it, realised there was no evidence and thought that is a complete waste of time and taxpayers' money and didn't bother doing it. And let's not forget, the government they are talking about is of course the Remainer government of Theresa May. This study was started in November of 2017 and finished in March of 2019 before Boris Johnson ever led the government at the end of the day. Which is why I tweeted out yesterday laughing at The Guardian, who put a picture of Putin next to Boris Johnson like it is his government that is responsible for this, or the lack of the committee's ability to actually do anything. The committee was led by Dominic Grieve, the arch-Remainer, who was answerable to, obviously, Theresa May. Naturally, the Ramona papers don't care about that. They will just pump it out to the little sheeple who will believe that it was Boris Johnson's government that did this when, as I said, the report finished months before he was PM. We obviously know the PM insisted that it was fair. He added, "We have seen no evidence of successful interference in the EU referendum. That's because there was none. The people of this country did it all on their own. You better believe it." Our intelligence and security agencies produce regular assessments of the threat posed by hostile state activities, including any potential interference in past or current UK democratic processes. The heavily redacted report was drawn up under the chairmanship of Remain supporting Dominic Grieve, as I said earlier. Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage said the findings come after years of lies and smears from Remain media and politicians, not forgetting they're activist lunatics also. There is no evidence of Russian involvement with Leave.eu or me in the referendum, he added. It was all a hoax. Apologies are now required. You won't get them, let me tell you. Now, following on from that, we also have this Telegraph article here, which embodies exactly what I've been saying for ages. All this Russia report proves is that British voters are more sensible than the Kremlin thinks they are, and obviously the mainstream media, which they are missing out here. We'll skip through most of it because it's all talking a load of bollocks and they're trying to frame it in a certain way. The report has largely grabbed headlines for the suggestion that Russia has tried to subvert British democracy, attempting to influence the Scottish referendum in 2014 in favour of independence. Because obviously weakening the UK is a lot more important to Russia than weakening the EU, which will destroy itself, as we already know, and proves what Brexiteers have been saying for a long time, that the UK is a strong nation that puts other nations on the back foot, such as Russia if they really needed to meddle. Because their meddling in the Scott Snap Pratt's indie ref shows that breaking the UK up is more important to them than breaking up the EU, because we are stronger than the European Union at the end of the day. If that wasn't bad enough, the report alleges that both government and security services were blasé about possible mischief making during the Brexit referendum by Moscow's English language media and internet trolls. There was no smoking gun, but wasn't this hot potato an indication that voters went to the polls again and again under an invisible cloud of Svengali Putin's manipulation? No, it really doesn't. That is just nonsense by the Telegraph there. Well, if record turnouts were produced by the Kremlin's influence, what gets ignored in all the excitement about electoral interference is the lack of success of any Russian subversion, which is something I actually pointed out in my video yesterday. Even with Russian help, the Scott Snap Pratts couldn't get what they wanted. Clearly, an independent Scotland committed to scrapping British nuclear bases and banning American atomic weapons would have been a coup for the Kremlin, but the majority of Scottish voters didn't go for it. Transatlantic solidarity is strong north of the border, even if affection for Donald Trump as a lost son is lacking. Backing Brexit, meanwhile, would have shown Vladimir Putin a poor strategist. Wasn't it obvious that if Britain exited the EU, it would align ever closer to the United States? A Leave vote was not a sign of anti-Americanism. Events in 2016 have surely proved that, and proved we are actually happy to join alongside our American cousins. Russia promoted a leaked document suggesting to Jeremy Corbyn's mind that the NHS was up for sale to US hedge funds. That didn't swing the general election. The red wall crumbled because countless traditional Labour voters put good old-fashioned patriotism first and didn't trust the Corbynated chicken's instincts on national security. Remainers predominated both on the committee and among their expert witnesses, which could account for why they failed to notice Russian enthusiasm for the Stop Brexit demonstrations and parliamentary paralysis in this country until December 2019. That logjam consumed political attention while Russia and China acted abroad. The public was disgusted with the political class in the run-up to the general election. From Vladimir Putin's point of view, that wound on the credibility of our parliamentary democracy was something money couldn't buy. And that whole little statement there just proves how nonsensical the whole Russian conspiracy actually was. There was no chance of it ever being true. It was all a load of old bollocks. The Russian government and the powers that be over there certainly would have supported the Stop Brexit campaign because they know us staying in the EU weakens the UK, a global global power at the end of the day. Now, despite everything we've gone through and how it proves how ridiculous this Russian conspiracy actually was, it would appear here as the Express are reporting that the committee requests full intelligence report into the EU referendum. Like I said, absolutely desperate in any way they can to try and find a way to stop Brexit from happening, even if it is too late now. They are looking for any excuse they can find to blame the Brexit referendum result on someone else other than the fact that the people of this country actually wanted to leave, and like Anne said, we're off. Now, I'm not going to bother reading through this article because it essentially says everything that we have already gone over, except for the one difference in being that they now want the full intelligence report into the EU referendum, as the headline says. So, like I've said many times and we all suspected from day dot, there was never any truth to the hoax that was the Russia report or anything to do with it. Like I said, much like the Donald Trump situation over in America that was going on for 4 odd years. The Remainers are desperate to find any little way they can to stop Brexit and pass the blame for their piss poor performance in the EU referendum and every election ever since.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.